All right, we are live on YouTube, we are live on Twitch, and we are live on DM Evanson's Twitch. I'm here today with David Johnson, who's a dungeon master, and he ran a bunch of games, actually 5 games at Long Island Tabletop about a month ago, and I thought that was a lot to run.
It was.
Dungeon Master David, tell me about basically your experience at Long Island Tabletop, just the basics of running the 5 games, what you thought. Was it hard? Was it too much? You picked a couple of different adventures to run. What was that like?
It wasn't hard. It was tiring. It was, mentally tiring.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of time between the sessions. So, and what I ran, like on Saturday, I ran 3 different games. So in like the half hour I had to clean off the previous game, set up for the new game,
Mm-hmm.
and try to grab a sandwich or something to eat,
Wow.
in between. So I think maybe next year I'll do like the morning and evening on Saturday and then 2 on Sunday or something, maybe get the afternoon off.
Yeah. Well, Long Island Tabletop, if you volunteer, they do have good food. They had coffee going around. They had heroes in the back, so that was a good thing. But if you don't have time to get to it, then that's a little bit rough.
Right.
Yeah, that's a lot for 2 days. Yeah.
Yeah. But
So-
it was fun. Everybody seemed to have a good time, which is what I care about mostly. I did a lot of kind of, us DMs, we try to plan stuff, and then the players get involved, and it all kind of goes out the window. So I did a bunch of stuff on the fly. One of the adventures that I ran, the Delver's Gambit, when I ran it the first time, like it didn't really go so great. Like the people seemed to have a good time, but they all died at the end. And then, so I went home that night and I said, I got to make changes to it. And I did that. I just made, changes to it, and I made it more of a there was no spoilers, there's like a dragon at the end, so I put like a bunch of kobolds like throughout the adventure, so to kind of lead up to it, because it's only a 3rd level adventure, so they were fighting like this dragon, and it was just easy to kill them. And
of course,
so they took the hint at the end, and the second group, when the dragon let them go, and they actually let go. But of course, the guy who played a rogue tried to grab some treasure at the end, and he rolled good enough.
Greedy rogues.
Yeah, but he made it. He rolled well enough. The dragon didn't see it, so
he
got away. So so it was good.
Let the dice tell the story. If he rolls great, it happens. If not, maybe he dies.
Exactly.
So let me start with the first question. What editions you started? How long have you been playing? How long have you been DMing?
Oh, I've been playing since 1977-ish. So I played
about the same as me.
Yeah, I played, the basic, the expert, first edition, little tiny bit of second edition, and then went to college, got away from it, came back at third edition, 3.5, 4, and now 5.
Wow. That seems to be, for people our age, it seems to be kind of the standard, just stick with it, and eventually you become a game master.
Right. Exactly.
You have to take over that mantle. Although we have a DM Evanson here, he's a little younger than us, but he's taken up the mantle. I actually picked up the Dungeon Master's Guide last week, and he's like, "Oh, that's it. You picked it up. You're not
done."
I'm like, I'm free.
I'm free. I'm free after 1,000 years. So Dave, you have DM Evanson. You have a few questions for DM David?
Yeah, it was just some basic DM stuff. Do you DM screen?
Yeah, I do. I do a lot of VTT since COVID, but I do have a monthly game where like my high school friends get together, and we play in person. And I threw out the DM screen, and I have like a TV set up at the end, at the end of the table, and I just do Roll20 on there. I was lucky enough that my wife let me to convert part of the garage to like a game room.
Awesome.
So that's where I am now. So so I have like a table, just it's my old dining room table, but it's a game table.
So you're not using basically miniatures and terrain. You're using a virtual tabletop, and they have virtual tokens on the table.
Yeah, exactly.
That's nice, though. That's nice.
Yeah,
it works.
Have you thought about using Sigil at all, or the DnD Beyond?
Honestly,
virtual?
Not so much. I use DnD Beyond. Like, I love to go to PAX Unplugged,
Oh, I just went to that this year, and
Yeah,
amazing time.
it's fantastic. So I got involved in like the Adventurers League. Baldwin Games runs Adventurers League stuff. So they also run virtual weekends, like once a month. They do it. So
Oh,
I got
wow.
a little bit into doing the Adventurers League stuff. And why am I telling you about that?
Just what's it called about if you use sigil
Oh
versus
yeah,
the virtual tabletop, which one's better?
right.
Wizards of the Coast or Hasbro, whatever you want to call them, they kind of put all this money to sigil, drop the ball when there's already good
Yeah,
other sources out there, and why not just kind of pick them up? Games Workshop does the same thing. Like somebody will come out with something great, why not just buy that from them and make it better? It's already
yeah.
out there.
I use. I'm in a couple of games during the week, and we use Roll20.
Hmm.
And like it's great. It got us
Oh, yeah.
through COVID, and I'm glad now that they're
Yeah.
starting to add more stuff to it. Me and one of my other players are trying to do like a co-DM kind of thing for our group,
Nice.
Okay.
and he wants to use Foundry. So
Sure.
Yes.
I'm kind of learning how to do that, and that's got a lot of great stuff too.
Yeah.
So I don't know which system is better. I don't know. Yeah,
that's a preference thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
But as far as like D&D Beyond is what got me the Adventures League stuff is what got me into D&D Beyond, and I don't run that, so I never really even got into the sigils.
Sure. So how many? So you said a monthly game with your friends?
Yes.
Nice. So you
how long is that? Once a month?
Yeah, we do once a month.
At least you can get that in. Some people can't get it once a month in.
Yeah, I'm actually very lucky because I have a Monday night game that I'm a player in. I have a Tuesday night game that I'm a player in.
Very nice.
And then I have the monthly game that I run. And then I play a monthly game with Drew of Team Drew's Basement.
Cool.
So
okay. Yeah, Team Drew. I've come across him somewhere.
He's got the Wozdeck stuff.
Yeah.
And he was at Long Island Tabletop this year.
Yeah, I was talking about tabletop, I think. Yep.
Yeah. He's very cool.
Nice.
So,
any other questions there, Dave?
How long have you been in your group?
I'm sorry, how long?
We did the DMing. It's been DMing. He's been playing since 77.
DMing. Yeah. So
DMing.
I probably started at like 3rd edition. So,
nice.
2000,
okay. Cool.
I started running. Mm-hmm. And I find 5e is really simple to run. Like I really like the rule set. I think it's great. The 2024 stuff is kind of cool, but I'm still learning it.
I'm enjoying 5e. I know people give it some hate, but we've had discussion with previous game masters and talked about our own homebrew content. You don't like something, you change it. An example, like they changed some stuff with the Naga. They took away like their dominate person skill, and Dave's whole adventure. DM Evans's whole adventure was based around the fact that the Naga could dominate. So he said, well, in this world, we made our own homebrew world called Erendor. Guess what? They can dominate and they can mind control, and because it's necessary for the story. There's no reason to take it away. So you take a pencil and you put that back in and you're done. It's your game. You can do what you want.
Yeah, I see stuff like online on like Reddit, and people like, "Is it okay that I change this?" And everybody's like, "Of course it's okay. It's your game. Like as long as your players are cool with it, go for it."
Absolutely.
That's what's so
pro tip. You can Dungeon Master. You can change stuff. It's your world,
right?
As long as everybody's having fun. And if a player has an idea, hey, I kind of want my player to be able to do this. There's no rule for it. Yeah, if it works, add that in or make it a quest where they can obtain that, and then that makes them happy, right? Everybody wants to kind of role play or fantasize or live out something maybe they can't do in real life. So maybe they're not strong in real life. They want to be able to throw stuff, or maybe they, they're not. They don't know. They only know one language, and they can speak, 5 or 6 languages in the game. Whatever they want to experience, you let them experience.
Yeah,
cool.
So let's jump into the first adventure, which was a Planescape adventure. And I don't have much experience with the Planescape, so can you tell me a little bit about the adventure, the Grave Escape?
So it's called Grave Escape. It's basically chapter 1 in the Turn of the Fortunes Wheel, which was the big product that came out, I think, in 2023 from Wizards of the Coast. And it was I don't know if I'm saying it right. It was Sigil, it was the City of Doors. which is where Planescape comes from with the Lady of Pain and all that. And when I went to PAX, they ran us through this first chapter, and I was like, this would make a great one shot.
Yep.
So I ran
the
it.
City of Doors. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. And it was funny. The players were a bunch of old school players, and they were like, no, we don't want to check out that door. Like, we're just like, the adventure is your characters are dead and they wake up in the morgue and they have to get out. So they're like, okay, well, we're trying to get out. Let's make our way to the doorway. And it's like, yeah, but there's this cool door with like weird noises. We don't want to check that out. So they just went through and there was like a big trap in the corridor, and they figured it out that it was a trap and they bypassed it. Like they just did great. They found the exit, and I still had like an hour left in the game. And I was like, all right, well, you want to kind of go back and look at some of the rooms that you missed? And they're like, yeah, let's do that. So that's what we did. We went back and checked them out.
Nice.
So
nice.
It was kind of fun.
Like everybody survived that one?
Everybody survived that one. And in the adventure, there's like a glitch happening, and if your character dies, they can come back either relatively quickly or like days later or a month later. And there's like something about that character that connects the old character. So you'd have maybe he's got like shock white hair. Yeah. So when your new group sees this guy that has, that's the same kind of shock white hair that, Telvin had. And then you kind of realize that he's just kind of brought back repetitively. And then that continues on in the whole, in the, I call them modules, in the adventure.
I call them modules too, so yeah.
Right? Just can't stop it. And, that develops more as the chapters go on. But but I just ran the first chapter.
This one, did you run it only once, or?
Yeah, I ran that one Saturday night.
Okay.
It's a little dark because, like I said, it happens in a morgue. Yeah. And there's a lot of zombies and dead things, and I figured that was more appropriate for an evening game. And
sure.
I put the little.
So that being said, how many different adventures did you run? You did 5, so there were 3 different ones. You ran this one and then the other 2 twice.
Yeah, exactly.
So that takes a little bit of extra effort too. If you were doing 4 or 5 games, I've been. So this YouTube channel switched totally to D&D. We were kind of doing all general gaming stuff, but we said we want to focus on D&D. So this year I did the last of my Call of Cthulhu games. We did the Lightless Beacon. I did it one day the other, because we actually had a table there. Mm-hmm. But the Lightless Beacon, so I've read it a bunch of times. I know it kind of by heart. But now you decided to run D&D, and you ran different ones. You were jumping around. Yeah. Was that okay? You jumped around okay? You remembered the stuff? It didn't really matter?
Yeah, like the Delver's Gambit was the first time I had run that. Mm-hmm. I didn't even do a dry run with my players.
Oh, wow.
So when we played it that first day on Saturday, and it seemed kind of choppy, it wasn't really going well. And I said, I changed some stuff on the fly to make it more fun. And that's when I said, all right, I gotta really change this up when I get home. Yeah. So I got home that night and quickly, added the kobolds and changed things around, because it was kind of this. It was just like an encounter, and it was like, it reminded me of way back when in like first edition, when you'd have like a dragon in each room, but there'd be like no logical reason that there'd be a dragon in each room. Yeah. And this was kind of laid out like that. Like, I didn't really see the logic of the monsters being laid out the way they were, so I just scrapped it all. And me and
DM Everson, we had a big discussion about this in our group. We went on a recent adventure in an underground dungeon cave, and it was actually laid out correctly. There was some beginning guards, there was some creatures in there with some storerooms, and these creatures knew not to go in the back of the dungeon because there was spiders and harpies in a certain area. The Naga was the main thing. There was a kind of a necromancer in the front, but it was laid out where, like, okay, these guys are working together and these monsters are in the back. And the old adventures where we grew up with, right, David? It was just like, monster. Like, well, why aren't the goblins getting killed by the dragon?
Yeah, exactly.
As I said, it doesn't make sense. So I like when it makes sense, and I like when you change that. It takes me out of the immersion. Otherwise, if it's just fighting different creatures, it doesn't make sense. Yeah, that's good.
And it's one thing when I was however old I was in 76, what was like 12,
Yeah.
like it was one thing when you're a 12-year-old doing it, then when now I'm 56 years old, and I'm running
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
So, you want it to be more logical, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So that was I was at this stage. So that was related to the whole Planescape adventures, right? And Planescape has come a long way. Have you gotten involved in Planescape too much, or has it mostly just been the Grave Escape adventure?
That was the only thing I did DM wise. A bunch of years ago, our group's DM, he did it was kind of a homebrew thing, but he used Planescape as the base. So we were
Okay.
in the City of Doors, and he was great because they have like a slang, and they call people like Burke is like a newbie, like a noob kind of
Oh
thing.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
it was great, and he knew all this slang, and he
That's
was
great.
using it, and the players and the characters had like no idea what the guy was talking about. So like that was really cool. He did well with that.
That becomes very very immersive then.
Yeah, exactly.
Stuff like that. So let me switch over here to a screen share. Stop that one. And let's talk about the Siege of the Lich's Tomb. This is a wondrous one-shot available for $21.95. And so this is one of the ones you ran, correct?
Yes, I ran this last year a couple of times, and I ran it this year.
How many players did you have at your table for all the games? I had 5 for my Call of Cthulhu.
I had
six at one.
Yeah, I had 6.
You had the full 6?
Yeah, this year. I think last year I had a table of 6 and I had a table of 8, and that was a little crowded.
What's your ideal number?
I like 5.
Yeah.
But I want as many people to play as possible. So if 6 people is fine, I'll work with it. They asked me to squeeze in a couple of people last year, and I said, absolutely, I don't want to say no to people.
Sure.
Yeah, people wanted to do. People wanted to play. So that was that Long Island Tabletop. Our next show, we're actually be at CradleCon May 17th and 18th. Cradle Aviation.
Oh, cool.
It's more of a pop culture show, but we'll be selling D&D miniatures and 3D printed terrain and all that stuff. So I don't think they're running any games there. A couple of cons coming up. I was even thinking of offering to maybe in exchange for a table or something to run some stuff. We played at. Have you got to Gen Con, David?
No, it was a lifelong dream of mine, and I was gonna go, and then COVID hit and dashed those plans. And then I found PAX Unplugged, and so now I go there all the time.
PAX Unplugged is amazing, but we played at a Gen Con. There was a table that had 24 miniatures in a huge dungeon, and you got a card. It was a 3.5, and it was a free for all, and it was the last man standing.
Really?
You can attack anybody. So I want to actually create that table and maybe run something like that. It's just a fun event that 24 people can play. And you kind of pull up the order. You say, okay, this guy goes, that guy goes. I was Olno Lightbringer. He was a halfling with a magic slingshot, and I ended up winning.
Nice.
I was very proud of that, and I made fun. I'm gonna get the damn halfling and not be able to do it. But I would only do 5 or 10 points of damage. But every time I saw somebody with 5 points up, I'm like whack, whack, whack. Everybody else loosened them up. That was good. Yeah. But so going back to Siege of the Lich's Tomb. So you had the full 6 players on that. It's levels. Were they all 6 level on that one?
Yeah, they were all 6 level.
Okay, and kind of run me through that adventure, because I took some time earlier just to look up what a Lich does nowadays, and I really hope your characters didn't fight the 2024 Lich, because it's ridiculous.
Yeah. No, so the premise is that this good organization has defeated a Lich, but they have his phylactery.
Correct.
Always have trouble with that. But they can't destroy it. So they built this tomb, and it's in the middle of the middle room, and it's got like these chains on it, and there are all different rooms around it, and there are defenses in each room, and there's like an earthquake, and it weakens the defenses, and this this
wow.
group calls in the adventurers and says, look, your reinforcements are coming. We just need you to stay in here and guard the tomb and guard the phylactery
Yeah.
so that this evil guy doesn't get it. And we know for a fact that he's sending troops in, and the first wave is going to be like, I think it's the southwest, and the second wave is going to come in the northeast. And the characters have like these crystals, and they can activate the defenses that they want to use. One is like this arcane cannon that shoots like magical energy. One is a shield guardian. One is like teleportation circles that the characters can jump around.
Yeah.
And they have 12 crystals, and they can't activate them all. So they have to decide which ones to activate. So
Wow.
I
like
so
that.
that's really neat.
That's great.
So
So it's a little tower defense type.
Yes,
so it's the player characters defending a tomb from bad guys.
Yep.
It's reversed. It's reversed. Like
It's kind of reversed. Yeah.
Wow, that's a good one. I might have to actually pick this one up just to.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
Might be a good one shot.
Yeah,
So
one shots.
It's so funny. DM Evanson, he in our last adventure we were talking about this dungeon where everything was organized. So the Naga had mind control people. We end up killing the Naga, and we find out that it can come back in 1 to 6 days.
Oh.
Yeah, it keep coming back. So now we're like,
Yeah.
how do we get around that? So we kind of joked, or at least I joked, that okay, a whole society is now going to build up around this. You're going to have a rotation of guards ready with access to kill guards. They're going to need support. They're going to need a bar. It's going to be a bar built outside. A whole town is going to be built around killing this Naga every 1 to 6 days.
Every 1 to 6 days.
And then and maybe it becomes like a tourist attraction. People come to this cave, and So we ended up doing a magic ward, magic spell, which we modified, a couple arcane rolls, and a little creative dungeon mastering. But like when you say the Siege of the Lich's tomb, it kind of reminds me of that it's kind of a reverse tower defense.
Yeah,
you're going in now, and maybe you're setting the traps and everything.
Yeah.
So did everybody survive that one?
Yeah, everybody survived, and I learned there's supposed to be 3 waves, and I've learned that that's just too long to do in the 3 hours at Long Island Tabletop.
3 hour time limit. Yep,
so
correct.
I just eliminated the middle one since it wasn't that interesting, and so they hit the first group, and then the second group, and then the third group, and then there's it comes with a double-sided map, and the harder side has 2 additional rooms. So, and a lot more monsters. So, like, if you wanted to do it for a longer thing, a longer session, you could just flip the map, and it's got, additional defenses and stuff that just makes it go a little bit longer.
And was this all on virtual tabletop then? These maps?
No, this was all live stuff. I took the maps and I laminated them at Staples, so that I can reuse them all the time.
Of course.
And I had the skinny minis that came with it for all the bad guys, and I had those heroes that I bought.
Okay. Well, let me take a step back.
Those are all the minis that come with it.
That's right.
So cool. these are plastic laminated minis on stands, almost like little player tokens you see in a board game.
Yeah, they're nice quality.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the acrylic and the colors they can get nowadays, it's enough, right? I mean, it's nice.
Yeah, it's some people it's almost too colorful. Some of them are like, tone it down a little bit.
Yeah.
But,
I guess you want.
It's just a nice improvement from having just a token,
Right.
It's a great improvement.
And I like it because it gives you a sense of scale. The shield guardian is this very tall creature, and when you're looking at a token, it's large, but it still doesn't give you that height. Differential. So if you've got a halfling character and he's, standing next to this 10-foot tall creature, it looks cool.
Yeah, it helps, so you don't have to describe every detail too.
Right.
Especially when you're running five games,
And of course they have a nice colorful mimic right in the front.
Right.
Did anybody get hit with the mimic?
No, he's one of the defenses. It's like
wow.
Yeah. It's like a fake phylactery. And it's actually a mimic. So they activated him, but
that's great.
So when a player activates the mimic, how do you play that? You let the player roll the dice and say, "Oh, this is a mimic. Here's some dice." Do you kind of just speed tell story like, "Oh, it hits him. Oh yeah, it kills the one bad guy."
No, I would have let him play the mimic. I think that would have been That would have been more fun. Maybe if somebody's character had dropped, maybe if they were unconscious or something, or somebody had died, I would have let them do it. But they never had to activate. On the first day, they defeated all the bad guys, and on the second day, the bad guy, the big bad guy, actually got the phylactery and almost made it out with it, which hadn't happened in any of the 6 times that I ran the adventure.
Okay.
So I was like, all right, he used the teleportation circles to move around. It was
almost becomes a game of football then, right?
Yes.
He's got the football. He's running along, and you're like, I gotta catch him, teleport, speed, shooting him, try to slow him with some spells or something.
Yeah, exactly.
That's funny. That's funny.
Yeah,
I like it. I like it. So let's let me remove that for a second, and let's see if we can pull up the last adventure that we want to talk about here. That was and we kind of touched on it in the very beginning. That's the Delver's Gambit. Now this is a different company. This is Skinny Minis. You were just telling us a little bit about it. A one-shot adventure for up to 6 players, level 3. Take your party through a pressure luck adventure through the ancient Avernus caverns, where incredible treasure awaits. But what will get your party first? The forces of the past or their own greed. So tell me a little bit about that. Why you like this adventure?
So it was like these gnomes. His history of it is these gnomes go in and they start finding all these crystals, and they get greedy and they dig further and further in, and then
gnomes love crystals.
Yeah, right. And then they unleash this evil, and it destroys their whole city, their whole village and stuff. So it's like this. It becomes like this gnomish cautionary tale, like don't get too greedy, don't do a Delver's Gambit, like that kind of thing. And this and this is the players go in, and there's a couple of hooks to get him in, like one person's his cousin went in and was never seen again. And there's this gnome, and he says, "Oh, there's this plant that is extinct, but we know that it exists here in the cave. So if you go in and get some of that for me, bring it back. I'll make some magic stuff for you. I'll give you some money, and then I'll keep mine." So the characters go in and they start fighting the monsters that are there, and then by like the third room, they find the cache of this plant, and they get all the plant that they need. So they could go back, or do they want to continue on the adventure and fight more creatures and get more gold and more magic stuff? And it depends on what the party wants to do. If the party turns around and brings the plant right back, then they're rewarded. Or do they just want to keep pushing it, and the monsters get harder and harder as they go? And it was, everybody kind of had these are just, they were playing pre-gens, so like they don't, there was no real history, so they were like, let's just push forward, let's keep going. And that's when the first group got to the dragon at the end, and the dragon was like, "Listen, you're trying to take all my gold, get out of here or I'm gonna kill you." And they were like, nah. And it was like breath weapon, boom, killed 2 of them. And then they were like, and he was like, "No, really, go ahead, I'll let you go, just don't and they kept pushing it, and it was like, all right. And I TPK'd them, like they wouldn't leave. I gave them so many opportunities to leave.
Well, I think that David, I think that's a good thing, because if they had more time, they could walk around the dealer's room and then come to our booth and buy some miniatures. Right. So definitely kill them early so they have time to come on. This is a convention. They have other places to be.
Exactly.
Especially if they're greedy. Those greedy gnomes.
They got all this money.
Was everybody a gnome in that adventure?
No. It was all. They were.
It was a mix.
It was a mix. Nobody was a gnome. It was they were elves and humans and
premium battle maps, two 18 by 24 back-to-back maps.
Yeah.
Did you use miniatures on this one? Did you use a skinny minis?
I did. Yeah, this one I used. I kind of found what I could, because I didn't have the skinny minis, because this one doesn't come with the miniatures.
Yeah.
So I used the campaign box and the monster box that came out a couple of years ago from Wizards with what do they call them? With the peel and stick monsters.
Yeah.
I used a bunch of
Oh
those.
yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't remember what it's called. I know what you're talking about. Peel and stick monsters. Yep.
And then I had something from I think from 4th edition that was all the thick cardboard tokens. So I used a bunch of those. And then I had made some tokens just for my games, just stuff I had printed and just glued, back to back. Yeah. And so it was kind of all over the place. It was all different size.
Yeah, you know what? It works. It works. We actually 3D print miniatures, and we have a painter and stuff on staff.
And it's funny because I needed a giant spider, and I said, "Oh, I forgot to bring a giant spider." And I went to you guys and I said, "Do you have a giant spider?" And you were like, "No, we just sold the last giant spider."
Yeah, I was gonna say we definitely did.
And I found the spider files. I printed I think a dozen tiny, small, medium, large, and then I have the king and the queen, which are just way too big, but they're kind of centerpiece models. So yeah, we're making a spider pack up. That's pretty funny. So what do you think of this company here? Skinny Minis, a pretty good adventure.
Yeah, the same. It's the same guys that did the Siege of the Lich's Tomb. They have like Skinny Minis, Dungeon in a Box, Wonders One Shots. They're all kind of the same thing. Like it was fine. This is the one that I went home and then I populated it with a bunch of kobolds that had like acid burns on them because it was a black dragon at the end.
I was going to ask what type of dragon it was. Yeah. Not that it matters; they're all pretty dangerous. But
it was like a young dragon, but still they're only 3rd level. So
yeah,
and all this was 5e.
Yeah, it was 5e. I said it was 2024, but we really didn't use any of the 2024 stuff. When you hit with a weapon and you can vex people and you can sap them, like none of us did that. So it really was 2014.
Yeah.
Okay. I think with the new weapons rules, then if you're playing at a home game and everybody really knows their character, but when you hand somebody a character sheet, here's your character, and like they might not know what the actual skills are. It's too much to keep track of. So
right. So they had a good time.
Awesome.
That's a Delver's Gambit.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. That Lich's one sounds great.
It is. It's really good. I highly recommend that one. That one's really good.
Dave had a question earlier. I don't know if we went over it. What do you keep behind your Dungeon Master screen? Any tips or tricks for the Dungeon Masters? What you really need back there? How do you do initiative?
You have any key items?
I think because I
besides some whiskey.
BTT, yeah, well, yeah, you can see that. I just have my laptop back there. I have this dice tray that I made. I really like the Stat Tracker products. And those are they're just a card, and it's you put them on the DM screen, and the side that faces the DM has all like the stats and the information. Yep. And the side that faces the players just has like the name, and now they're making them where it has like a picture and stuff. Yeah. And I use that to do initiative, and I just put those up on my screen, and I do it right to left for my view so that the players see it left to right. And this way they know when they're up and when, which monster is up next. And it's just very clear, and it just eliminates the whose turn is it? When do I go? Like it's right there.
There was a vendor there, and I think I bought those cards maybe for Evanson. He had stack trackers and a lot of stuff. That's the one, right?
That's the one. Yeah.
I think it's a great product. There's a lot of good products out there for Dungeon Masters to take advantage of and use.
Yeah, when you're running multiple creatures of different stats, it's very helpful.
Yes, very much.
Yeah. Any so before we go here, David, any memorable stories that really stick out as a player or DM that come to mind? Maybe a character you really love to play, or situation that you got involved in, or something you really laughed about with your players.
I think the most memorable thing, it happened at last year's Long Island Tabletop. Okay. And it was a little adventurer that I had taken from a 4E adventure that they had a book called Dungeon Delve, and it was basically 3 encounters for every level. So I had done it as a first level, and at the end there's this young like a wormling, a white dragon wormling.
Okay.
And we were going through the whole thing, and this one player, the dice were just not being kind to him. Everything he tried to do, he got a 1 or 2. I think like a 3 was the highest he rolled. It was like
we all have those days.
It was brutal. This dude's turn was come up, and he would try something, and he would just utterly fail. And then we get to the final encounter, and he was a trooper, man. Like, he kept trying stuff, and like he wasn't complaining about it.
Yeah.
And we get to the final encounter, and there was this dragon, a white dragon, and then there was this like fire sorcerer, and the guy who was having such bad luck made an insight check, and he nat 20'd, and he realized that the fire guy didn't really want to be in the relationship anymore and would turn on the dragon. And now the dragon was decimating these characters. Like, it was just breath weaponing and, attacking them. And he realized that, and he, when he made his pitch to the character, to the bad guy, and, and the bad guy went for it. So then he turned on the white dragon, and they won. And it was great because, like I said, the guy failed at everything, but when they really needed it, boom, he got that roll, and everybody just jumped up and cheered.
Yeah, that's great.
And in an odd way, an insight check saved the day. It wasn't a magic, spell. It wasn't a weapon. It wasn't a smite. It was like, I'm insightful. I know something about the social behavior, and that's going to save everybody.
Picked up on a spell stick too. That's so cool.
And I didn't lead him to it. He just said, I want to make an insight check. Like, I gave him a hint or two, but I wasn't like, you could really do an insight check. He just, it was great. Like, and it's funny, just telling the story, I get kind of chills about it. It was
that's fun.
That's cool.
That's great.
That's cool. So
very cool.
So we can find you on Instagram as DnD Guy 39.
Yeah, that's me.
DM Evanson. We can find DM_Evanson. On Instagram. You can find me at Dark Alchemy Limited on YouTube and Instagram and all the different places. We're trying to connect everything together. You can always contact us too through Instagram if you have any questions. Our next con will be CradleCon, May 17th, 18th at the Cradle of Aviation. And David, you have anything coming up? You going to Long Island Tabletop next year? You're going to go to Unplugged?
Yeah, I'm definitely going to Unplugged next this year, and definitely doing Long Island Tabletop. So.
When is Unplugged?
It's November this year.
Okay.
I think the weekend before Thanksgiving. It's the same weekend as the Philadelphia Marathon. So
wow.
Get your hotel early.
Oh, wow. Interesting. Get hotel now. I got to talk to Scott about that, Dave.
Yeah.
We're probably going to go. So, Dave, we'll hit you up if we go. We'll send you a text.
That'd be awesome.
Like, then maybe get some board games, or maybe we'll, end up doing some of the same events. Because
very cool.
I really liked it. Evanson, are you going to try to go to Unplugged or Gen Con?
I'm going to try this year. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm going to try to do all the cons that I can.
Yeah, we're trying the cons and stuff. But we'll be at Long Island Tabletop next year, running D&D. Well, I ran D&D last year, David, and I did Food Fight, where the people go to a food festival. And they can cook and they compete if they want. I had one guy who wanted to compete. He was actually a chef in real life, so that's why he signed up for it. And magic goes awry, and the food comes to life. And we 3D printed from this one guy the Food Fight miniatures. So there was a giant cheeseburger, there was a French fry necromancer, there was some cake guards, and it was kid friendly because if you kill a cake, it's not like murder. It's just just splatting food. So it was a good time. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. So well, thank you for your time, David. It's very much appreciated.
Yeah, very nice meeting you. Talk with you.
Yeah, nice to meet you too.
Thank you, DM Evanson, for coming on, and we'll see you. Until then, I hope everybody keeps rolling their dice and has some good stories like David does. Take it easy, guys.
Everybody.
Be well.